Santé a salué nous. Et pour nous commencer, nous peut chanter un couplet chant au toi dans les bienfaits. Ensuite, nous demandé frère Ben pour le capable faire première prière là pour nous. Ô toi dont les bienfaits ne talissent jamais, ô Dieu de paix, pour louer ta présence unie, tes enfants, écoute leurs accents reconnaissants. Pour louer ta présence unie, tes enfants, écoute leurs accents reconnaissants. Amen. Ouais, ben le fait.
Notre Père et notre Dieu, nous voulons te remercier pour ta bonté et ton amour manifesté envers nous. Merci pour le désir que tu as mis dans le cœur de Sœur Jodin pour aider la famille et la santé à progresser. Alors que nous avons 2 enfants de notre Église qui sont disposés pour nous aider cet après-midi, nous te demandons de les bénir, de les fortifier à tous les points de vue. Accorde-leur la santé spirituelle, la puissance du Saint-Esprit, et que tu continues à les orienter afin qu'ils continuent à prospérer à tous égards et en retour, ils puissent continuer à aider ton œuvre. Nous te demandons de nous assister par ton Esprit Saint, au nom du Père, du Fils et du Saint-Esprit. Amen.
Amen. Chers frères et sœurs, chers amis, encore une fois, nous disons bienvenue au programme de santé et nous dit bienvenue à notre special speaker, notre sœur, notre docteur, notre enfant, Josya. Josya Charles, oubliez l'autre nom, hein? Et encore, hein?
Laurent,
Josya Charles Laurent, et encore nous avons l'autre monde qui est avec nous, c'est notre sœur Patricia Jodin, qui là tout nous dit bienvenue à Patricia et spécial bienvenue à Josya.
Awesome. Well, bon sabbat.
Mon frère Linette, c'est Josie pas arrête la place.
Gloire à Dieu.
So, bon sabbat, Jerusalem. It's been a long time. I miss you guys. That's my home from when the church was founded.
Yes.
So you know, since Lisa je dis on parle avec nous de question pour nous qui santé nous surtout dans l'âge de COVID. So ma fait plus en anglais parce que c'est plus facile pour moi. But in any case, si une question, hésitez demander question and we'll go from there. I'm going to share my screen just to make it interesting. You don't have to look at my face the whole time. Okay, you have some other faces to look at. All right. So just bear with me here. And let's begin. Can everyone see my screen, first of all?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So staying healthy in the age of COVID. I think this is an important topic for us because COVID's still around, right? We're tired of it. We're annoyed by it. But it's like, how can we stay healthy and not get tired or fatigued in the whole process? So let's start with some current numbers of what's going on in Pennsylvania. Even though I live in Florida, I live in Miami, I want to make this related to what's going on at home. So currently in Pennsylvania, as of yesterday, there's about 1,863 cases every single day. So about 1,800 cases, moun qui prend COVID presque chaque jour en Pennsylvanie. In Philadelphia, it's about 177, so 1,077 chaque jour de moun qui prend COVID. From the last 2 weeks, that's been an increase of about 14%. The good news is that overall numbers are coming down, right? So if numbers coming down, that's giving us a sigh of relief. At this point, most people have either had COVID or been exposed to someone with it. So we're starting to see things really calm down, but also because it keeps changing, you see little bumps happening. Un l'autre raison que nous numéro a commencé à monter encore, c'est que quand il y a saison fait changer, commence à faire fret, moun pas d'ailleurs en pile en dedans. So si nous pas gain place pour, leave enough room, then you're likely to be passing it to each other. So that's why numbers are coming up a little bit too. Add to that, we're in flu season. So with flu season as well, if someone's already sick, they can most likely pick up COVID too. I've had people have both. All right, so that's kind of where things are. So the good news is numbers are overall are coming down, but right now they're starting to go up just a little bit. So here's the main question, is the pandemic over? The official answer is no. According to the World Health Organization, they haven't officially announced that it's over. A pandemic is still happening because every country is still affected, still in pretty high numbers. Not as high as 2020, but still enough that is still something that we should not completely ignore, okay? So what can we do to stay healthy? That's the real question, and that's something that's, I think, especially important as believers, especially important as Christians. Our bodies are God's temple. So it's really our duty to be healthy. It's really an act of worship to be healthy. So let's talk a little bit about what we can do. You've probably seen the acronym New Start before. I don't know what it would be in Creole, but from the Adventist Church. So let's kind of go into that and talk about what New Start stands for. And these really are the tools we need for being healthy. And is nutrition. Our food is our medicine, right? What we take in our body every single day is going to have a bigger effect than any medication we take. The gift we have as Haitians, the gift God gives, like nous gain connaissance de remède, nous gain connaissance de feuilles. So gain pile feuille qui kon by guérison, qui en pile feuille qui ka aider nous. So, on pile couture pa gen sa yo. So that's something that's really important for us to have these knowledges, sou malati ou besoin te bon monter aso si on te langisha, so let's keep that in consideration for nutrition. Okay. And then also exercise. We're made to move. Si nous pas fait mouvement chaque jour, n'a commencé gen douleur, n'a gen zo qui commencé gen problème, gen moun qui commencé gen dépression parce que pas fait mouvement. Quand nous supposons gen en qualité de mouvement chaque jour, même si c'est pas en gros, si on a gym à lever fait, mais chaque jour, même si on fait en 20 minutes à marcher, c'est très important. Pendant que température a changé, pour moi, on pas de problème ça parce qu'on est en Floride, n'importe où on peut sortir même si gagne la pluie. Mais en Philadelphie, nous connaissons gagne neige, gagne fraîcheur. Pour nous habiller pour ça, pour nous préparer pour ça. C'est pas une surprise que saison a changé. Nous connaissons chaque année a gagne hiver, chaque année a gagne neige. So préparer pour ça, pour nous pas gagner excuse pour nous pas faire mouvement chaque jour, right? Water is important too. We're made of water, right? We're not made of soda. We're not made of juice. We're not made of coffee. We're made of water. So we need to make sure we're drinking water every day. When I have my patients in the hospital and I ask them how much water they're drinking, so I have a cup with me. They might drink just this for the whole day. That's not going to do it. And then they wonder why they have kidney problems, why they have constipation, why they feel, you need more water. If you want lubrication for your joints, movement, you need to be drinking at least half a gallon. And depending how big you are, you might need to be drinking even up to a gallon or more. Because they need that for that functioning. So we need to be drinking a lot more water. How do you know you're drinking enough? When you go use the bathroom, your pee is clear or light yellow. Il pas supposé foncé, il pas supposé gen sun, right? So let's say we connaît que l'air travaille normalement. And so that's an important thing to see. And your skin will make a difference too. Gen pil moun ki their skin is dry and sèche, yo pa boire assez d'eau. So drinking water is very, very important. Let's talk about S. S is sunshine, right? So the weather is changing, but still that ties on with exercise. Try to get outside, try to open a window, get some sunlight. That helps with different hormones in our body. It helps us with our mood. A big thing they've seen is their mood gets affected by wintertime, not enough sun. If you need to buy a little box light, and they're like $10 or $20 on Amazon or a store, they can give you like a fake sunlight to help with your mood every day. So sometimes people buy what's called a light box to help. Temperance. So that's the T in start. Temperance means self-control, meaning moderation, right? One of the fruit of the spirit is self-control. So we're not eating a lot of food all the time. You know, if it's time to sleep, we listen to our body and go to sleep. We have self-control over certain things. We think about it before we react. All of these things are important. And feel free to, while I'm going through all this, feel free to drop questions in the chat, or if any of this really connects with you, please put that in the chat. Air, again, back to exercise, back to fresh air. We need that for our life. R is rest. An important gift we have is the Sabbath. The Sabbath is a built-in holiday every week. It's a weekly holiday. Take advantage, take a rest. I know many times we can be so busy doing activities at church the whole day and we don't really rest until Sunday, but we got to make sure we have some time on Sabbath to actually rest besides that time of worship too. And then the last one, T, is trusting God. And that actually covers everything and really covers this whole conversation about staying healthy. Our trust in God not only affects our faith, but it also affects how our body reacts in our immune system. When we operate and live in a place of faith, we are more optimistic, we have less stress. And when you have less stress, then you don't have as much high blood pressure, diabetes, kidney issues, gaining weight, or having trouble losing weight because you're not in a state of stress. Trusting God eliminates all of that, right? And we need a strong immune system to fight things like COVID and flu and the common cold that we can see. So these are key things we need, not just in the age of COVID, but really for life. Okay. Any questions so far? All right. That's pretty straight. And I know this is a kind of high level thing. We can always do future talks and get into deeper detail about this, but really want to kind of be a high level conversation of what we can do to be healthy. So let's talk about some touchy topics next related to being healthy in the age of COVID. What about mask? All right. So I live in Miami, as I mentioned, and Florida was already like the Wild West when it came to things. We were one of the first areas where they got rid of the mandates for masks. I still wear a mask in the hospital. We have to wear them in the hospital. When I go to my doctor's office, we still have to wear masks in the doctor's office. So even though the politicians are saying to go without it, remember, their focus is money. Their focus is not health. The doctor's offices and the hospitals, that's who you need to be paying attention to. We're still wearing masks. So how do we balance it out? If you're in close contact with somebody who has COVID, put on a mask, be smart about it. If you are around someone, and remember, this is you to protect you from getting it from them, okay? And at the same way too, so you don't pass it to someone else. It's a nice barrier, right? We've learned that we sneeze and we cough pretty often, and we can at least have a barrier to not get that from someone. And please make sure your mask covers your nose, because really it's the nose that's going to be exposed to things. If you're really close to someone, you might even want some glasses or goggles, because things can get into the eye too, okay? So my recommendation is, if you are someone who already has different illnesses, you're overweight or you're diabetic or you have kidney problems or blood pressure, like you already have medical problems, it would be wise to continue to wear masks to protect yourself, because your immune system is low. We got to get it to a place where it's stronger, okay? If you're out walking down the street, you don't need it, because there's enough space between you and the next person, right? It's those close interactions. So if you're in church and you have a few spaces, you might be okay. But if you're gonna go sadly with someone, maybe just come from the side, don't actually kiss them, maybe do a hug, but still keep your vigilance. if your immune system is not that strong. If your immune system is stronger, then you have a little more leeway. You know, when I go to the market, I don't, and this is full disclosure, I don't wear a mask, but I'm keeping my distance from people. I have my sanitizer on my keychain. I'm cleaning my hands. I wipe my cart down. That's just stuff I was doing even before the pandemic happened. Okay. Another touchy topic. Should I get the vaccine? Yes. My quick answer is yes. You know, why? Because God gave us knowledge, and that knowledge is put into the medicines we have. You know, many people say, well, they did it too fast. I'm glad they did it fast. I think it took something like this to make us move faster and not drag our feet with certain things. Other countries don't take that long when they do vaccine development or medications. Remember, America is a country that is focused on money. And sometimes they can drag their feet on some things when they want to, but when they want to move fast, they can. I will also say the vaccine has helped that when people do get COVID, they're not as sick. I had a patient this week in the hospital who came in COVID positive, but he did not need oxygen. In fact, I was able to send him home the next day. He just got some fluids because he was dehydrated. So we're seeing when people get the vaccine and they do get COVID, it's not as bad. It's almost like they get a cold. Same way when we get the flu vaccine every year, it's to keep it from being even worse, right? So there's definitely more benefits to getting it than not getting it. So I'm going to say as a professional and as a person who's gotten my 2 rounds plus my booster, I'm planning to actually get another booster. Yeah, get your vaccine. It's a smart thing to do. All right. I see there's some stuff in the chat, but I'll check that in a second. So very quick talk, but in summary, the way we keep healthy in the age of COVID is, to summarize, like I said, overall cases are coming down, but the last 2 weeks there's a slight increase in Philadelphia and in Pennsylvania. Wash your hands, keep a mask on if you know you're sick or you're around sick people. Please, your biggest medicine is your food. Your biggest medicine is your food. Eat vegetables, eat your fruits. Please don't put a whole plate of judy on it. Don't pas plein ventre à judy, right? A little bit of rice, control the meat. That's the most important thing because that helps boost your immune system. Drinking water, exercise, trusting in God, fresh air, getting rest. These are the things we need to, like I said, not only be healthy in a time of COVID, but even beyond. All right?
That's exclusive.
Any questions? And I saw there was something in the chat here. I'll put the chat real quick here.
We have some people on the line.
Okay.
If you are on the line and you have a question, you know what to do. 5 étoiles. Si nous soulignons, nous besoin en question, et nous besoin 5 étoiles, et puis mapper. Okay.
Or if anything needs to be translated, please let me know. I know I kind of went through it a little bit quickly, but
yes.
But I really want to give more time for dialogue.
Yes, okay. Mba we question nan li nan, no? Mba kon si ap tandem nan li, no?
I'm going to stop the share.
Si nap tandem, si moun nan li yo ap tandem, map mande Sir Rose Mathieu ou bien Sir Yolette yo fait 5 étoiles. Pour m capable connaître que nap tande. Definitivement ap tande.
Okay, while we're doing that.
Okay, yo tande, ap tande nou.
Okay, great. So there is a question. Oh, I see it. Okay, let me answer the question in the chat first, and then I'll take your question for Benjamin. The question was, if we wear our mask, should we wear a mask if we're talking with vaccinated people? That is a great question. I would say you could probably get away with not wearing your mask. If they're vaccinated, the likelihood of them passing COVID to you is low. And that doesn't mean they can't get it, right? Because I'll say for myself, I've gotten vaccinated and I got COVID, but thankfully, because I was vaccinated, it wasn't that bad. It was like my nose felt a little stuffy. And then I happened to test and I found that I was positive. If I didn't test, I wouldn't have known, right? It was that mild. So being around vaccinated people, probably not. But like I said, if you know that you already have a propensity or likelihood of being sick, or you already have other sicknesses, for your protection, you probably want to wear a mask or keep some distance with someone. All right, for Benjamin, you had a question.
Oh, question nan, c'est que t'as aimé connaître pour qui raison de faire après vaccin, you obligé à prendre booster et à combien booster à privé?
You know, that is a perfect question, right? Because I always say we're still learning about this thing, right? We know it keeps mutating, it keeps changing, it keeps going. I don't know how many boosters. I'm going to be honest with you too. I'm tired of the boosters, right? Because I was hoping we were going to do the first dose, the second dose. That was it, right? In fact, Moderna only had one dose. I did Pfizer because I was one of the first to get the, when the vaccine came out, Pfizer was the first one. So we don't know yet. What they're thinking so far is that it might be every year, like the flu vaccine. So we don't know yet. We'll see. So I would say if you had your booster done, the recommendation, they say wait 6 months before doing it again. My last booster was last year after I had the baby, so it's been a whole year. And I'm only thinking of getting it because it's now covering some of the new strains. But yeah, I think we don't know how many boosters are to be done yet. So if you're able to stretch it out, I think that's okay. But if you're someone, for example, if you're someone who has lung problems, you have, emphysema, asthma, COPD, like your lungs already have problems like that, then I would probably just go ahead and get a booster to be on the safe side, because the lungs are already weak. Someone who has other medical issues, so but it's not necessarily the lung is the main issue, they could probably wait a little longer. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Can I say something too?
Sure.
Moi, j'ai toujours pensé que for COVID, we might have to take nous capable besoin de prendre vaccin chaque année. Parce que c'est même genre avec flu, virus yo changé, yo pas arrêté même nan. Or, ça fait un coup kounya yo fait yon pour tout strain virus qui gagne kounya. Mais nothing says that it's not going to change. Année prochaine, il va changer encore, venir différent. Et bagay, donc, ce qui veut dire, chaque fois changer, faut yo venir avec un lot de vaccin qui pour couvrir changement. C'est ça que c'est dans flou, nous prenons flou chaque année parce que it keeps changing. Vaccin flotte by année dernière là, yo pas capable ou l'année ça. Donc c'est chaque année pour yo renouveler vaccin.
Yeah, and that's where things are leading towards right now, that the thought is going to be that it's going to be probably changing every year. So I know right now they're saying every 6 months to get it, but it might eventually become something that's a once a year booster,
Yes.
even a combination one with the flu vaccine, so you just get it one time versus having to get 2 shots. So those are the discussions, not formal yet. Dr. Josya has wants to talk, Ms. Dr. Patricia Josya. So go ahead, unmute yourself.
I was just going to say a comment, and I was just going to say that, this vaccine isn't the only vaccine where they had to change and adjust based on the virus changing. Yeah. There's a vaccine called the HPV vaccine, which they also had to change. And so this process isn't something new. It's something that's just being replicated from what we've learned from previous vaccines, just to kind of ease people's fears about that too.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that. HPV one has changed with the pneumonia vaccine for age over 65. They changed the strains that they put in that. We know the flu vaccine changes every year. It's just a new one we have to deal with, and I think that's all the more reason why we need to do our part to stay healthy. So we're not in situations where we're, one, dealing with COVID, or two, God forbid, we're ending up in a hospital setting, Any other questions? And it doesn't have to necessarily be COVID per se, because remember the topic was how to stay healthy in this age, in this time. So I want to, be of service and answer any questions that anyone may have. Oh, and for those who don't know, I know we didn't do it earlier. So as Josya said, I am a doctor. I am I'm trained in family medicine. I work currently in a hospital setting in Miami. I'm gonna start doing some office work pretty soon, but I'm currently like seeing patients like almost every day. So actively practicing in general medicine. So I just want to let people know that for their background.
Okay. One question. Ok, si nous avons question sur l'INA, pesez 5 étoiles. Ok. Oui, il y a une question à poser. Oh my God, il vient de passer dans la tête. Eh bien, on continue. Aussi, si l'elle vient dans la tête, comment dire? Oh oui, il y a des gens qui disent comme ça que si vous prenez un vaccin, ou pas de faire petit. Ou te répondre à une question ça déjà. Le devine la caille ou te dit c'est l'offre prend un vaccin ou vient enceinte.
Yeah, that's a great question. So no, it has no, there are some studies saying it might affect your cycle a little bit, because there were studies like saying, oh, it might temporarily, maybe your cycles do in a few days, it might come either earlier or a little later. And same thing with guys. There was a study actually out of U of Miami, and Patricia, you can tell me whether or not you're aware of it, with guys where they check their sperm counts, but it was like temporary, like a little dip. I had my first vaccine before I had my child. At the second vaccine, I did not know I was pregnant. And you guys saw him at the beginning of the video. He's fine. He is healthy. He's full of energy. So Jenna actually had the privilege to come by the house a couple months ago and spend time with him. So no, it has no effect on fertility. There are plenty of people who've had the vaccine and had healthy babies. I will say this, having COVID while pregnant, you really don't want that. I've had 2 patients in the ICU on breathing machines who were pregnant. In fact, one of them, I was so sad because we were like the same amount of weeks. I think she was like 20 weeks or something. Pregnant in ICU with the breathing tube down her throat. Don't want that. So getting the vaccine and preventing COVID or make sure that's not as bad is way better than risking being sick or potentially even losing that child. If someone's really, really concerned about their fertility, they can always, get their vaccine and then wait to try to have a child. But there's not really been any solid evidence it's affect fertility. All right. And most insurances are still covering the vaccine. I don't know how it is up in Philadelphia. We can get it in our supermarket. Our supermarket has a pharmacy down here, so we can get it there, or still at CVS, Rite Aid. I would imagine has a similar program too up in Philadelphia. I don't have Rite Aid down here, but we have CVS, Walgreens. So it's still available. I say take advantage, and for all the reasons we mentioned, if you are someone who's already, sick to begin with, or you're in exposure for other people and you haven't gotten the vaccine, at least get your first set. And then, like I said, the boosters, we're still seeing how things tease out with that. But if it's been over a year, probably go ahead and get your booster.
Oh, one question about the vaccine. The new vaccine they have now, not the booster. I know the booster covers the new booster covers all the strands of the virus. Mais vaccin qui gagne kounya vaccin tant the first and the second dose. Est-ce que lui-même tout li couvre toutes strands yo tout?
So the booster is the new vaccine, right? So this is
okay, I see.
So when you go and get your booster, it's the same as if you were getting the brand new, vaccine for the first time. It's not like this is the booster dose, this is the booster vaccine is done. It's the same thing.
Okay, I understand now. Okay.
Great question.
Yeah, c'est vrai. OK. Bon, gon question frère de demander pour lui. Et bien ou t'a parlé de health de santé de exercice. Les dit gen moun qui pense que le sabbat yo pas kal non, yo pas kal al faire si marché, yo pas kal boire la mer, yo pas kal aller dans la nature. Donc
that is a great question. Like I said, God gave us a gift of a weekly holiday. And our bodies are his temple, right? So I think to be able to, it's an act of thanking God for nature, to be in nature. Bon Dieu pas design, like he didn't design us. Il pas fait nous pour nous chita en dans caille. L'était fait jardin. Il était en dans caille. Right? Right? It was outside. Il était en nature. Il en plein nature. So on fait marcher en nature. So bon, gen l'église qui compte fait baptême dans la mer. Ça va, right? Ou bien you all fait baptême dans rivière Jourdain, right? Out in nature.
Yes.
So non, c'est pas un péché, c'est une action de grâce, c'est Thanksgiving, c'est un moment de louange.
Exactement.
Parce que le fait marcher ça, il me dit bon Dieu merci le fait que me marcher. Le fait que me marcher, le fait que me dehors, me get 2 pieds, 2 bras, me respirer. Je dis bon Dieu merci pour tout ça. Chaque temps me fait ceci, me dit bon Dieu merci parce que ça c'est un grâce qu'il fait.
Amen.
Right? So,
Amen.
Bon Dieu pas fait nous pour nous chiter dans l'église pour 7, 8, 9 pour toute journée. No. So, si vous avez opportunité, prends avantage opportunité. That's my thought. And I think honestly, we don't talk about that enough. And that's how you put your faith in action. If I believe that God heals me, that God is my healer, God is with me, then yeah, I'm going to go walk. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to think good thoughts, right? To show the fruit of the Spirit. This is all living our faith, not just talking about it.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, here's one in the chat. Can you speak on how to maintain mental health in the age of COVID, especially in Black community, or focus on our Haitian community? Okay, see some other people in Instagram saying hi. Hey, how are you guys doing? So let me talk. I'm going to see if I can explain this a bit I'm going to explain it in English, and I pray the Holy Spirit translate for those who don't understand in English. I knew that that COVID was coming before they announced it on the news. Being that I'm a doctor, being that I work in the hospital, we started seeing stuff before everybody else did, okay? And I'm going to give you this whole story to explain the mental health. There was one particular day I was going to go work, this is here in Florida, and I was working in a hospital an hour away. I got up early, mal plié. And I noticed and I could sense that there was going to be a spirit of fear and confusion that would come upon people with regards to this thing. And I remember praying, and God was saying, like, this is not just a physical disease or a physical battle. This is a spiritual battle, right? So when we understand that, in terms of keeping our mental health in the day of COVID, this goes back to New Start, that last T, trusting in God. We have to have audacious, radical faith, that okay, for example, I was listening to the story of Abraham, right? When God said, I'm going to, m'a fait un père d'un pile nation, tout côté que ouais, it's going to be for you, tout côté au marché, tout ça, right? For Abraham. Abraham couldn't see it, but he believed God. So in the même sens, we have to have a faith that is so big and so strong that we are going to trust God no matter what we see. Due to, like, when you see people are getting sick, people are problems, we have to have our faith in God. That's number one. Number two, with having that faith in God, we take advantage of the tools he's given us. So the tools he's given us for mental health is therapy. Therapy is for your brain the same way going to doctors for your body, the same way going to the mechanic is for your car, right? These all things to help us stay in good condition. The same way you go to the dentist for your teeth. They all come hand in hand. They're all part of our care. So therapy, counselors, sometimes our church community, we get together and find someone you trust to pray for you. Okay, someone filled with the Holy Spirit to pray for you. And that's the support. Like I said, going to the therapist, they're the specialists for the brain. And, and I speak to a therapist, and I have my faith in God together. They go together. The same way I see my dentist for my teeth, the same way I have the mechanic for the car, the same way I have a fitness coach for my workouts. I have all these people in my team to help me be the best person I can be. All right. So with mental health in the age of COVID, it is important. One, if we're feeling overwhelmed, we're feeling stressed, we're feeling doubt, and we're praying and asking God for help, these are the ways we get help. Okay. So recognize that there is an issue. Don't just say, okay, I'm just going to keep going. Recognize that you need help. Find someone you trust to talk to about it, or even get a professional that you can go step by step to work through the problem that you're going through. Okay. In our Black community, I feel it's another form of slavery, another form of when we don't take advantage of the tools that are here. It keeps us down, right? If we're too focused on not getting our minds free, then we don't prosper. We can't be the best. We can't be our best selves physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially, because we're struggling with stuff, but there's opportunities for help. There are Black therapists, there are Haitian therapists. They're not going to tell your business to anybody, right? They are professionals the same way I'm a professional. When people come to me for their health stuff, nobody else knows. That's between them and God and me. That's it, right? So I think being able to take advantage of all these tools will help us to maintain our mental health in this time. One of the simple tools I give people, because I would do a lot of telemedicine where people call me and we did calls like this on Zoom, not on Zoom, but through the computer. When they were feeling stressed, I just tell them to stop and take a deep breath. Just literally just stop, breathe in, and breathe out. And that little act, especially for us as faith, it reminds us who we belong to. Remember, God gave us the breath of life. So when we pause and breathe, we're reconnecting to that source. And we call it, New Age calls it meditation, mindfulness, but the truth is we're reconnecting with our source when we stop and pause and breathe. So many times we're go, go, go. Remember, Sabbath is a day of rest, but we should also have moments of rest every single day. So I know that I kind of cover a lot of that, with the mental health, and that can definitely be a talk in itself. I have friends who are, therapists. We can always do a panel in the future to talk about that a bit more within not just Black community, but, the whole diaspora. Really, it's things that we struggle with, but I think when we don't get free, we stay in slavery.
Okay, so Josya, I'm telling you, I'm so proud of your answers. I'm so, elated, delighted, both elated and delighted. But let me, I'm pas même besoin de poser une question ça parce que vous déjà répondre vous déjà répondre dans ça, mais m'a demandé pour monde, m'a demandé pour l'autre monde qui hésite, qui comprend pas bagage. So pour ces deux monde qui dit que monde qui prend vaccin c'est foi yo pas dans bon Dieu.
Okay. So
comme vous déjà répondre oui mais
sure.
me pose exactement.
So the person who says you don't have faith in God, where is your faith that you feel that you can't take the vaccine? Where's you're telling the person you have faith in God, but you yet have faith in your car to work, or when you take the bus, you trust the bus will get you where it needs to go. Mm-hmm. And those things are made by people who are not they're skilled and talented, but it's not the same level as a research scientist who's been working on something for over 10 years. Remember, the vaccine wasn't brand new. They were already developing something for coronaviruses, right? And then when this came along, they're like, well, we're going to adapt it to this particular molecule. Here's my deeper theological issue. When someone says to someone else, where is your faith? That person who poses the question, their faith is not in the right place. Because if your eyes are focused on God, you shouldn't be questioning my faith. Mm-hmm. You should be going to your prayer closet and praying and saying, God, I see this person's going to go do the vaccine. Can you guide me and let me know if that's the right thing. Can you guide me, let me know, should I speak to them or not? Many times God is not leading them to speak to that other person. It's not coming from God because, you know, they're coming from their own knowledge or what they got from social media. So them coming to someone else saying, wow, that's not of God. What is of God is, you know what? This person's made this period. Someone made a decision, okay? Whether it's vaccine or whatever. On l'autre monde fait une décision pour ça ils veulent faire avec quoi avec bio. Right? In general, you fait une décision. My job is, okay, moun ça fait décision ça. Bon Dieu, aide one, can I help me to accept it? Because it's not my business, right? Unless they're doing something obviously dangerous. And I know there's questions where it's, but we just said it's not. And then God, I need to know from you whether you're leading me to talk to them. And I'm guaranteeing you, most of these people aren't doing that. Yonik faire réaction. They're not thinking, they're not being led. And I think this is calling us. That's why I said this whole COVID thing was not just a physical disease. This was a spiritual thing coming. It's calling us to a different level of our faith. This is calling us to expand. We were like this in our belief of God. We were like this in how we saw the world. And God's saying, no, I have more for you. Remember, like Abraham. He said, okay, you're Abraham. I'm making you Abraham. I'm making you a father of many nations. You thought you had it good. Remember, Abraham was rich. He was rich before God came to him. He had land and everything. But when God said, I'm taking that and taking it even bigger than what you see now, that's what God is doing with us right now in this season. If we're saying we're getting ready for heaven, which we can't even put in our mind, we need to prepare ourselves mentally, which means bigger faith in that. So it's a like I said, it's a deeper theological thing to that question of saying, do you have faith or not? The person who's asking needs to check their own heart.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Pas gen moun ki gen question? Oh, thank you for the answer.
No problem. I mean, at the end of the day, when we're dealing with health issues, it is a direct connection to our relationship with God and also how we think and treat ourselves. If we treat ourselves like nous pas voyant, we're going to eat and act that way. If we say, oh, c'est un monde spécial, you know, God created me on purpose. God knew my name and did everything. I'm gonna act differently. I'm gonna conduct myself differently. And I think that's what he's teaching us in this season. It's like, okay, this is the time, one, to wake up, and two, let's do better. So that not just we say we're believing in God, but people see it in our lives, right? In everything. And I think it's a beautiful thing too. I think it's a beautiful thing because we're growing as individuals, we're growing our faith, we're seeing what God is capable of. And it just prepares us really for what, you know, this life and the life to come.
Amen. Pas gen moun nan Zoom nan ka pose question?
Sorry, so my folks Instagram are talking about health. We're covering stuff about being healthy in general. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat. All right. So far, no questions from Instagram.
Non pas gen question, non ba kon si gen question nan Zoom, non?
Well, I'll say this, if anyone wants to get in touch with me, I'll drop this in the chat too. I am on Facebook, I am on Instagram. On Facebook, it's Dr. Josya. And then just type in, you'll find my page. And on Instagram, it's Dr. Josya. Same thing. So at Dr. Josya. And it's Dr. Josya, DRJOSYA. So on Facebook or Instagram, you can connect with me. It'd be great because I know I haven't been up to Philly in a while. So if there are more questions related to this topic or health in general, I would, do my best to answer or point you in the right direction because I am, I'm here for my people and a resource.
Okay, can I add something, José?
No. Yes, Mom.
Listen, that was a great question for the mental when Patricia asked that question about the mental health, the mental status of the community facing COVID, I wanted to add, like, I had the opportunity to talk to several children from my school. The fear they had was, what will happen to me? What will happen to my family? They were scared because we never faced a pandemic like that before. I mean, at least on our time. But, and also they're facing a challenge, an economic challenge also. Some of them who don't want able to go to work, the income decrease. And especially for the seniors, they were really scared because remember, they were the target ages. They said the senior will die more. I mean, because the immune system, they think they will be affected more than other people. So, I mean, that's a lot of people. The mental status that changed a lot was fear, economy, the aging, and that was really frightening for us. So, I mean, I think it's still there because whenever someone coughs now, even when my grandson see me coughing, oh, grandma, COVID. If you sneeze, COVID. And all those things come to your mind. You ask yourself, what will happen? So I'm pretty sure you answered the question regarding to our faith. But if you can put more emphasis on it also for us.
Absolutely. The Bible says God did not give us a spirit of fear.
Yes.
And that did not, and that's something that I say again to myself again and again. God did not give us a spirit of fear. That's not from God. But what did God give us? Power, love, and a sound mind. So when we tap into that truth, we operate differently. Remember, spirit is fear can sometimes be, it's I don't want to say it's a spirit, but definitely it can be tempting to fall into fear. You can be tempted to fall into that feeling. It can come, but you can have control and say, you know what? The Bible says this. God has given me power. So with that power, I'm gonna use my knowledge of washing my hands, using my mask, making my distance, eating better. Maybe this is the time I need to start working out. Maybe this is the time I need to put the cake away, right? So, we have to remember that. We have so much power I don't have my Bible with me right next to me, but that book has so much. It's not just for Saturday for preaching. It's for everyday life, especially in this time of practice. God did not give us a spirit of fear. So that's not of God. So when it comes, you say, you're not from God, you got to go. And guess what? It will go, right? The Bible says, resist the devil, and he will flee. When you put that in action, it really happens. So that's the first thing. And then remember, we have power. So when we're in that situation, what do? Wait, I have power. And then when we do that, then when we get out of, and also from a science standpoint, from a neuroscience standpoint, when our brain is in fear, when the amygdala is kicked in, the amygdala is in the middle of the brain. It's considered a primitive part of the brain. It's one of the first parts that develop, okay? But as we get older, we develop our prefrontal cortex, which is judgment and thinking and imagination and planning the future. So when the amygdala is working and we're in fear, our prefrontal cortex shuts down. The two of them cannot, this is the science behind what we see in the Bible. The two of them can't work at the same time. Faith and fear can't be in the same place at the same time, either one or the other. So when we shut down fear, then the prefrontal cortex, the faith kicks in, then we can make a plan, then we can think, then we can assess, because that's a gift God has given us. God has given us cognizance. He gave us free will. So we need to tap into that power and use it. So I think that to expound on that element, fear is contagious too, right? If one person's afraid, everyone's afraid, you start feeling it too, right? If someone's anxious, you start feeling it, but you have control to bring that down and say, no, I don't accept that in my life. That's not from God. God gave me power and I'm going to stay in that power. And literally that's something that we have to practice. I practice this every single day. And I'll say why. Many times I work on the cancer unit. I work in the cancer unit in the hospital. I'm at a big hospital here in Miami. And Patricia's at the other big hospital. They're like huge hospitals. So think UPenn, like, well, not as big as UPenn, but definitely like Temple, like big hospital. So they have a whole section just for the cancer unit, and then a whole section for the ICU, those who are in the breathing things. When I walk on those floors, when I open the door, when I get out the elevator and walk on the floors, I can sense the fear. I can literally sense the fear, the illness. But I pray and say, no, that's not coming on my life. You understand? You can literally go in places and sense that. And that's this, remember, we all have our own conscience in us that can pick up on things. So you can sense it, but you can choose that I don't accept that from my life. So therefore, I'm able to go and take care of my patients, help them out, pray for them, be with them, but that does not come upon me, if that makes sense. Okay.
So it's good to have a positive state of mind.
It's necessary.
Necessary, okay.
Remember, Jesus said, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly.
An abundance, that's true.
Like this is putting what we believe in action. Jesus gave us abundant life. So positive is where we're supposed to be. Now, with that, remember, you're not doing it foolishly. You're not saying, I'm going to be positive and I'm going to drive 100 miles an hour. No, you have to have some common sense with it as well. But yeah, a negative disposition is not of God. Why? God didn't put us here to suffer. Jesus paid it all.
Yes.
Let's actually believe that.
Thanks.
Sure. Right. Feedback there. Yeah. Thank you. But I'm definitely, would love to do more talks. I know, like I said, this was a very general, high-level conversation. There's so many topics that we can get into in more detail regarding health. There are a lot of topics of health. And of course, my ultimate goal is that, we are healthy. And when we're healthy, we honor God. And as we honor God, we're truly a living witness, a living testimony to others. And that'll be more authentic and more true than just talking words. We have to live it.
Okay, I have another question.
Yeah. If
someone who's not vaccinated and they catch COVID, it's not, when they catch it, it's too late to take the vaccine. Why?
They need to wait at least 3 months after they caught COVID to take the vaccine. Because what happens is after they recover from COVID, they have some natural antibodies that the body made. So at that point, it doesn't make sense to take the vaccine right after they recover. They can wait about 3 months and then they can get the vaccine.
If they make it.
If they make it, yes. I mean, I will say this.
That's the fear.
Right. I will say, thankfully, more people are making it, because the people around them are vaccinated. We don't have herd immunity yet, but we're seeing less severe cases, thank God.
Amen.
That was President.
Yes, I know.
He knows that voice.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent.
So about the, I'm sorry, President, go ahead.
Excellent job, Dr.
Yeah, about that pill, there is a pill they gave you. It looked like some of them are pink, some of them are red. So you get it after you catch COVID, or can it be as a prevention?
It's not a prevention. So there's Paxlovid is the one I know off the top of my head. There are some that are done after someone's contracted. Someone has their hand raised. I'll answer that in a second. Thank you for that. So there are pills that are there. That's going to be like, I'm not currently in the office setting for the guidelines because like I said, I see patients right now in the hospital. So by the time they're coming to the hospital, they're not given that option. But yeah, there's certain criteria the person needs to meet to qualify for whether or not to get the monoclonal antibodies in the pill form or whether the IV form.
But it's still working, right? The pills work?
It has, what it does, it helps to kind of reduce their symptoms to keep them out of the hospital. So for example, using flu, we have Tamiflu, which is one example. There's another newer one where if someone gets the flu, we give them that medicine within like 72 hours to help it from getting worse, right? But it doesn't cure. So the whole goal is to keep things from getting worse. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I don't have the full details on it because I'm not currently in the office setting with updates on that. But I believe we have a hand raised. Kennel, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Josya, for the information that you're giving to us. I have a question. The question that I have, a lot of people are saying that because of the vaccine, the COVID, people are dying with heart attack, kidney disease. Is there any adverse effect related to the vaccine?
Great question. So what happens with heart attacks, kidney disease? That's from COVID, not from the vaccine. You know, from the patients I've had, especially early on in the pandemic, when I would take care of them in a COVID unit, COVID would produce a lot of blood clots and cause bleeding in other places. Like their whole circulatory system, their blood system was out of balance. So you can have people get clots in their legs, clot in their lungs, and at the same time, when you stick them to do a lab, they won't stop bleeding. Some patients would actually just, or they're having bleeding from their rectum. So they didn't die nice steps, if you will. It was quite pretty bad. So no, those complications have been more from COVID itself, not from the vaccine. Things you've seen from the vaccine have been like the arm is a little sore. Some people say they might feel a little feverish, a little tired for 3 days. With almost any vaccine, you get the rare condition of Guillain-Barré, where they might have some things affect their nervous system, but that usually goes away after a few months. Or some patients get admitted and they get plasma to help address that IVIG. But no, those particular things you mentioned were from actual getting COVID. You have another question for me? I see your hand still up. Mr. Kennel, no?
No.
Okay, great. Dr. Jin, I saw you came on camera. Did you want to comment on that same question? No, okay. But that is a great question, whether that comes from the vaccine.
Like that wants to see Dr. Jordan.
She was there.
Great. I think these are great questions to ask because people want to know and
dis encore, si on mon en ligne, non, voulez poser une question ou comme ça pour faire et puis frère fait qui a mettre à connecter.
Or as I said, because it's easier for me to talk in English. If there's something someone didn't understand, please ask a question and we'll translate,
Ok, just moi gen on l'autre topic qui réellement quand on qui a la une konye is the RSV and the group is plus timon li attaqué and it's look really dangerous and there is a combination of the flu timon you get flu you get COVID et puis you get RSV, c'est ça?
Yeah. So RSV is not new. RSV has been around, and usually this is the time of year that kids have been in the hospital with it. Here's the thing we have to realize too. The news, their job is to make money. And how do they make money? They make money through advertising. But people have to watch the news to watch the advertising, so the money cycle goes. And they have learned that people I don't say we like, but people are attracted to news that is scary, that is sad, that is shocking. In fact, years ago, there was a saying in journalism school, if it bleeds, it leads, which meant it goes at the top of the newspaper before we had TVs and everything. I actually did a journalism program years ago, in addition to my medical training. So when we understand the news's job is to make money, not to inform, they're saying stuff that's not really news or new. RSV comes this time of year all the time. Flu comes this time of year all the time. Why? Everybody's indoors, they're closer. They're seeing a quote increase in the numbers because we're not seeing as many masks. In fact, numbers went down, right, with COVID because everybody had masks on. Everybody was extra vigilant. These numbers are not more than they were before the pandemic. They're about the same. So one could also consider that, these kids maybe not have developed immunity too, because we were so extra for our cleanliness and everything, they weren't exposed to these things. So again, God didn't give us a spirit of fear. This is not news. RSV is something that typically kids get, it's not something you see in adults. So I hope that answers the question. Really, this is not anything that's new. Usually this time of year happens.
Okay.
I see hand raised again. You can unmute yourself.
Comment il y a quelqu'un qui va poser question,
Go ahead.
Oui, doctor. I think I see a couple people. People that they had COVID and they were positive. And after 2 months, they get tested. They still get tested 15 days, 10 days. After 2 months, they're still positive.
Yeah.
I just want to know if those people are still contagious to other people.
You know, not necessarily, right? I had a patient in the hospital this week. He got COVID back in September. It's November. It's been 2 months. He's still testing positive. We've had patients, 3 months. Like we've had some nursing home patients. We can't get back to the nursing home because they're still testing. But no, they're not considered infections at that point. So,
but can they transmit it to somebody else?
They're not considered infections at that point. When we have them that long, we don't even do precautions anymore with them. We treat them like any other patient, even though they're still testing positive. Like they don't have any symptoms at this point. This is kind of from a scientific standpoint, this is the interesting part of it, because we're still learning about this thing. And you have people who still test positive. That's number one. You have people who still have symptoms, months after having COVID, where they're still having breathing issues or they still can't smell. So that's the interesting part we're still learning about and don't really have a good answer on. But to answer the question, if they're long-term, now it's different if they were positive, went negative, and they went positive again. That's different. They probably got it again. But if it's been the whole time, they're probably not considered contagious.
But some people got COVID, the positive, with no symptom. Are they still contagious? Like if they get in contact with someone coughing, whatever, they can buy money.
Well, here's the thing. You said if they may not have symptoms, right? So they may not necessarily be coughing or anything. And yes, they can pass it on. That's part of why this thing is still hanging out, right? Yeah. It hasn't gone away. Because you do have some people who have it and don't have any symptoms. In fact, I've had, this is the beauty of still being in active practice, because I can give you guys recent examples. I've had plenty of patients come in because for stomach ache, for their appendix or their gallbladder, or for a urine infection, and they happen to test positive. But that's not why they came to the hospital.
Wow.
So it's a very interesting thing in science. We're learning, and I think it's also part of the mystery of God, because remember, this didn't take God by surprise. God knew this was coming. He knew we'd be here. So it's just interesting learning this science, like, okay, what are we actually working with? And the creator knows everything, so we're just trying to learn from him what's going on. So that's a bit of humility for us too, because we don't know the answer to everything. We're just doing the best we can.
Amen. Frère Ben, comme si tu as l'âme de parler, tu te voulais dire un bagay? Frère Benjamin.
Il déplacé, oui, Jean.
Can I ask another question if they don't have any?
Yeah, go ahead, ask your question.
How long the booster lasts? Because I see after the vaccine, we have to take boosters. The first one, the second. How long the booster lasts?
So We talked about that a little bit earlier. So for right now, the thought is that it's probably lasting about 6 months. What we're hoping will happen is that they will eventually be once a year, like the flu vaccine. So that's another part we're still learning about. Like I said, for myself personally, my last booster was a year ago. I only had one booster. So I had I had Pfizer, 2 sets of vaccine, had my booster after giving birth, like my son was 2 months old. And then I got COVID in January, so, but I wouldn't have known unless I checked because I had like a little bit of a cold. I know you weren't here earlier when I shared that story. So, because the question earlier was, do we need to do this? Like how many times we have to do it? I think Benjamin asked that question. So right now they're recommending every 6, especially for high risk people. I'm saying that if you're not high risk, meaning you don't have lung problems, pneumonia, asthma, well, pneumonia is a short-term thing, but asthma, COPD, emphysema, or other medical issues, you could probably wait a little longer. But if you're around someone who is already weak or sick, probably for their protection, you might want to get it sooner. I'm hoping eventually that they find a way to do a combo of it with the flu shot, so it's once a year thing. My real prayer is that they figure it out and cure it and we're done with it. That's my real prayer.
Everyone.
Yeah. Non, il y a une question sur ligne de prière là, oui?
Yes, let's take it.
Sœur
Bonsoir, Sœur Josya. Je voulais dire bonsoir, docteur Josya.
Bonsoir.
Encore bienvenue chez toi.
Merci.
Moi, pas une question pour le moment, c'est parce que tu dis me lever même avec ce rose, je n'ai pas te dire que tu es non. C'est ça que je fais étoile.
Ok, moi t'es ouais. Ok.
Ok, ouais. Mais parce que moi là tout, je n'ai pas te dire, par contre, ça tu as besoin.
Oui, non, ce point de besoin qu'on est si nous attendez. Parce que
oui, non là.
Ok.
Non là.
Ok. Donc, une question. Est-ce que vous prend flu shot là avec booster like the same day? Is there any conflict?
I did that last year. When I took my booster, I had the booster in one arm and the flu shot in the other arm.
Oh gosh, I was going to fight with my doctor not to do it.
I mean, here's the thing. If you are somebody who tends to get a little arm soreness or, full week after vaccine, you might as well just get both at the same time and be done with it versus take the one and then see how you do and then take the other one. But you can't go wrong either way.
Okay.
I took the first booster and never went back.
Yeah, like I did the same. I took my first booster a year ago and I'm waiting. I'm going to try to wait as long as I can before taking this booster. And I still work with COVID patients. I had COVID patients this week. And thank God I'm okay. And I plan to stay that way. Any other questions?
One last question.
Sure.
I see a lot of people are talking, they are talking about natural immunity. Is the natural immunity better than vaccine-acquired immunity?
That's a great question. I mean, we would love that. I would say yes, because it's our body making it, right? So it knows exactly what to deal with versus acquired. Because we know acquired can go down over time. So yeah, natural would be ideal, but so far we don't, as a population, don't seem to have natural immunity against coronavirus, which is why it did so much damage. We didn't have a natural immunity against it, at least in this form.
Okay.
So, we can do things to boost our immunity, as we talked about earlier in the talk about, I keep saying again, our food is our medicine. And as Haitians, we have the gift of our different herbs and our teas, and in fact, eventually I want to work on a book with those. So for doctors who aren't, who are about that call, so they can see when they see the leaf, okay, this is this leaf, it's good for this and good for that. I would love to put a book together to create that. So we have, especially for those of us who were born here in the US, so that we can pass that knowledge on. It's a beautiful knowledge to have. So we can do things to strengthen our immunity, you know, when we don't have natural immunity. So like I said, number one is going to be the stuff we eat. One quick way to boost our immunity is to cut out or to reduce artificial foods, you know, a lot of, and then sugar. Oh my gosh, the sugar is hidden in a lot of food, and that also affects our immune system. So if we cut back on sugar, I'm personally cutting back on sugar through the rest of the year, just for my own personal reasons. I'm not making it mandatory, but I'm saying if we cut back on sugar, salt, refined foods, things that are in package versus making food at home, then our body's not spending time breaking that down versus building our immune system. Our body gets distracted. So just eating healthy and movement, you know, we talked about exercise, we talked about walking, we talked about drinking water, talk about rest. All these things help get the body in a state of health versus its immune system is down, and then you're more likely to get stuff. Another big one, you know, we talked about not having a spirit of fear. Let's talk about grief. Day. That's an important thing to talk about, because day, there's such a shock to the system from what happened that the immune system gets down. It's not, you can see a lot of people after a funeral, they get sick because they're shocked, they're doing everything, they're moving, and you're malad. So making sure that we take care of ourselves in when our emotions go up and down can help our immune system too. So we're not likely to pick up a sickness.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
To 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I think it's time for everyone to go eat something healthy. I don't want no one's sugar to get affected. Time to go eat and go move your body. We've been sitting for an hour. Is it dark in Philly right now? Did the sun go down?
Yes.
Because over here, the sun is still up for another hour. And don't forget, clocks change tonight.
Yes.
And go back 1 hour and everything. So guess Sabbath close. Sabbath is still open where I am, but I'll close Sabbath with you guys. And, you know, I just want to again say thank you for inviting me to come talk. I'm really excited for all the endeavors the church is doing to help people all over, you know, mind, body, and soul. Really, this is how we truly worship God, with our whole bodies. And so staying healthy is definitely one of those things.
Amen. Amen. Est-ce que gen l'autre moun nan team nan health team nan ki la avec nous après-midi a? Beside Frère Kenel? You can fake careful there. Oh, Sir Mimose. Ou ka fè remerciement pour nous? Allô? Ou ka fè remerciement pour nous? OK.
Un remerciement pour nous?
Oui.
OK. OK, d'accord. Nous avons dit merci à Dr. Josya qui a accepté l'invitation, nous, qui est venu dans nous toutes les instructions. Nous dit que bon Dieu va continuer de bénir, qu'elle bénit le ministère, qu'elle bénit le travail qu'on faire, pour capable aider la communauté haïtienne et toute l'autre communauté pour capable instruire, pour connaître comment pour vivre, comment pour rester en bonne santé. Et nous remercier tout le monde qui était monté sur les lignes pour capable attendre, poser des questions. Et nous souhaitons nous pour nous passer une bonne semaine sous la protection divine.
Okay.
Pour nous capable terminer, nous chanter.
Un petit moment, n'a pas pasteur opportunité. Pasteur là n'a pas une opportunité pour le cas de bagay. Pasteur, oui, Pastor.
Amen. It is a great topic this afternoon. I have to thank our director, Sir Judin, and our guests, Dr. Charles, and I heard that your daughter is with us, and maybe if I heard very well, donc take her also. Donc, may God bless you, Dr. Charles, for your presence on the line. May God bless your ministry, and you continue to serve His church until He come. Mes frères et sœurs, nous contents d'être que petite fille à l'église là, la fille de notre directrice, sœur Julie Charles, te présente un sujet d'actualité, comment que nous sommes capables en bonne santé dans tant que nous vivons là. Nous croyons que nous allons mettre comme ça en pratique et nous remercier directrice santé et avec tout staff qui était organisé le programme là, soulignant cet après-midi. Que vous soyez en bonne santé pour la gloire de Dieu.
Amen. Amen. Nous avons demandé frère Kenel pour les capables de faire prière là pour nous, prière finale.
Sur la tête numéro 21, seul couplet.
Oui, numéro 21, seul couplet. Oui, c'est Mimos. Oui. On met chanter, oui, c'est Mimos.
Oh, toi dont les bienfaits ne s'arrêtent jamais, ô Dieu de paix. Pour nous tes présences unis, tes enfants écoutent leurs accents reconnaissants. Pour nous tes présences unis, tes enfants écoute leurs accents reconnaissants. Amen.
Couper tête nous pour la prière. Merci Seigneur, notre Dieu, pour grâce au fait nous, pour l'amour manifesté envers nous. Merci pour docteur Josya, Charles Laurent qui était là, qui t'a donné nous un pile conseil. Nous demandons au Seigneur, ou va bénir lui, ou va protéger lui, bénir famille Seigneur. Permet au Dieu qu'on soit capable toujours bali plus de compréhension et plus d'intelligence afin que les capable gagner de bonnes paroles pour qu'il capable partager avec le peuple. Père des cieux, bénis-les encore. Bénis chacun de nous qui était là, qui t'attendait, Seigneur. Ouvrez un pile bagaille pour nous, pour que nous-mêmes nous capables d'apprendre mieux pour santé nous. Parce que santé nous, c'est lui-même qui est capable de permettre que nous capables de vivre plus bien. Nous demandons au Dieu, on va permettre que nous-mêmes nous capables de pratiquer en pile dans bagaille ça dans la vie nous. Comme ça, nous capables de rester en bonne santé et nous capables de servir les gens que vous-même vous voulez. Protégez-nous, bénis-nous, Seigneur. Nous gagnons une nouvelle semaine qui va commencer. Nous demandons au Seigneur, on va aider nous, Seigneur, à passer semaine ça sous ton divin regard. Bénis pour nous le pasteur, Seigneur, à qui que vous baillez notre travail pour le capable d'effectuer dans l'église. Nous demandons, on va bénir pour nous la directrice, Seigneur, de la santé, la sœur Josya. Permet au Dieu que le capable de gagner de plus bons programmes pour le capable partager avec le pouvoir et comme ça nous toutes nous capables vivre en bonne santé. Nous pas bon nous pas dignes, nous prions dans nom de Jésus. Amen.
Amen. Chers frères et sœurs, comme nous l'intelligence solaire, l'intelligence couchée, nous avons dit nous, bon, je ne connais pas ce que c'est ouvrir ça bas. Je dis, si c'est.
Aïe, ma fille.
Côté li, Raphaël, où est-ce?
Oui, il a fait bye-bye, José.
Oh, côté li.
Le côté Jody, non, mais Josya.
Ok.
Aïe, la fille. Aïe. Ou pas, ouais, José.
Oh, Kounia.
C'est Christine. Ça va, c'est Christine qui a fait ça.
Aïe, ma fille.
Bye-bye, c'est bye-bye. Fais bye-bye. Fais bye pour maman. Bye-bye. Josya fait bye. Elle a regardé. Hi.
Yeah, this is Raphael. He is 1 year old, 14 months. Thank you for having us.
Okay.
It's a pleasure.
It was a pleasure. You know. Ok. Ou tout an reme ale plus an dip nan ba la nan what I don't